Alright, in the previous video I said that we are going to add textures to our model to make it look different in some places without having to add multiple materials to your object. And before we do that, we actually need to do something. We need to do something that's called UV unwrapping. And first we need to understand what it is and why we actually need it. So now here I am in a simple blend file that I have just hit the default cube. And with this default cube, I'm going to explain you what exactly is this UV that we are going to need. So first of all, I'm going to this shading tab right here. So clicking on it, and then to add a texture to a model, we are going to this part here. So in the shading view, the node view actually, and we are going to press Shift A, and then we are going to search for image. So we have this image texture node, and then I'm going to grab from color. So I click here and grab to base color. All right, now our cube is black. That's basically because I don't have any texture in here, so it becomes black. And then, since I don't have any, I'm going to create a new one. So I'm going to click this button, and I'm going to keep the resolution as it is at the moment. And I'm going to actually change this here to UV texture. That's the name of the texture that I'm going to create. Why? Because I'm going to make this one a UV grid type of image, and also took out the alpha because we don't need alpha in this one. And then with this, I'm going to press OK, and we are going to see that our cube now has some chess-like texture, and we see some also some plus signs and things like this. This is basically a texture that's mainly used to check the UVs of an object. Now let's go with, let's understand what this UV actually is. To do that, we are going to change here to the UV editing tab. So I'm going to click on it, and then with our cube selected, so if it's not selected, I'm going to press A to select everything. One thing that's very important, let me just set this here so you can see what I'm actually doing. I'm going to press A to select everything, and here I'm going to zoom out and press A here as well. So we can see that this here has a shape of a cross, and this is actually the cube that we have here, but it is cut in a way that we have it placed here in a 2D space. So it's basically like an origami. So if you fold this here, we are going to have the same shape as the cube. And that's basically what we need to do with all the models, so we are able to add textures to it. And for example, if I move this here, let me actually change here. So I'm going to rotate this here and change to material preview. So I'm going to click on it, and then we can see how the cube actually is. Now here, with everything selected, I'm going to move it. So when I move it, we can see that the texture also updates on the model. That's because the UV place interferes, let's say, it changes how the texture is going to look on the model. If we scale this up, we can see that the amount of squares in our cube grows. And if I shrink it down, the amount of squares in our cube gets lower, let's say. And that's basically it. And so we have to be careful with how we place our UVs and things like that. But we still need to understand how to make this. And to make it, we need something that is called a seam. We are going to create seams, so cuts in our model, in a way that it is going to be able to unfold in a 2D plane like this. So here, just to show you how the UV seams are, I'm going to select everything, click here on UV, and then I'm going to look for seams from islands. So, okay, now I'm going to press Alt A here just to deselect everything, and we can see what is happening. We see some red lines here, and these red lines, they are the seams. These are where the cuts are going to happen, so the model is able to open up in a 2D space like this. And we are going to do the same with our robot. We are going to create these red lines in our robot, so it's going to be unwrapped into a 2D plane like this. And if we want to add a scene like this, we just need to press 2 to go into Add Select mode, and then select the edge that we want, and then we press Ctrl E, and we can go to Mark Seam right here. So when we click Mark Seam, we can see that now this edge is red. And if I want to clear this seam, I can press Ctrl E again and clear seam. And that's basically it. And that's basically what we are going to do with our robot. So let's change into the robot. Alright, now that we already know what UVs are, how to add seams and stuff like that, let's do the same but with the robot. And to start, we are going to need to add a checker texture to the boybot as well. And to do that, we're going to do the same as what was done in that cube. So I'm going to press Shift A, and then I'm going to search for image, then add here an image texture, and I'm going to create a new one. And this new one, the same thing, I'm going to make it a UV checker, and then going to take off this alpha and change the type to UV grid and press OK. Now I'm going to grab from this yellow dot here to this one here, so from color to base color, and leave it like that. And so we can see that our model indeed has some UVs, but they are not very good at the moment. So we can see some distortions in the UV. For example, here we see that it's not very square-like. And the same thing we see here in the eyes. And we see actually lots of different things. For example, the amount of squares that we have here on the eyes is not the same amount that we have here on the head. And that would be something that we should have in a model like this. All the amount of squares, let's say the density of squares, should be equal around the same model. And that's not happening here. So we are going to, first of all, going to create the UV seams that we saw on that cube. And to do that, we are going to, let's go here to UV editing first. And then I'm going to do some things here to speed things up, because we would be able to, for example, come here and select the edge, and then a Control E, mark seam, and then select this one, Control E, mark seam, and stuff like that. But then if we keep pressing Control E and things like that, it's actually going to take quite a long time. So I've added it to the quick favorites, which is the letter Q. When you press it, you're gonna have this. And to add them to your quick favorites, basically what you're gonna need to do is press Control E and then right click on the action that you want. In this case, it's going to be the mark scene. Right click on it and then click on add to quick favorites. In here I have remove from quick favorites because I already have it there. And we can also add the clear seam because we are also going to use it quite often. So when you press Q, you should have something like this. All right. Another thing that we need to do when we add here the seams is we need to see how the unwrapped version of it is. And to do that, we need to press U and then unwrap. And then we are going to see something like this, because we have a cut here and a cut here, so it doesn't open correctly. It opens like this. And one thing that we need to see here as well is actually going to here and pressing the material preview, so we can see what's happening with the squares in here. And it doesn't look very good the way it is at the moment. And one thing that I'm forgetting is to come here and screencast. All right, and so now you're able to see what are the keys that I'm pressing. So going back here then, what we are going to need to do for this head shape here then, I would like to get all these faces separated from each other when they are showing here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press A and then Q, because we added the mark seam to the quick favorites, and I'm going to mark seam. All right, now that we have it marked, I'm going to press U and then unwrap. Okay, so now that we press U, we can see that the result of it is right here. But it's still, every time that we make a change in the UV, so for example, if I click here on this edge and press Q and clear seam, I have to press A to select everything, U and unwrap again, which takes some time, and we can do this automatically. So I'm going to these options right here and then click on this live unwrap. So every time that I make a change, it's going to update the unwrap right here. So clicked on the edge, Q, mark seams, and we see that it changed here. We don't see here yet because to see the UVs in the UV space right here, we need to select the object. And to actually make this a little bit easier, so we don't need to keep it selected, we can synchronize the selection of the UV view and the 3D view. So we can click here on UV sync selection, this guy, and then now even if we don't have anything selected, it's going to show here as well the UV. All right, that's nice. So basically here now we have a bunch of squares showing in the robot, and they don't look to be distorted or anything like that. So I'd say that the head is complete, at least for now. And then let's go for the next one, and the next one's going to be the eyes. So I'm going to click on this little dot here, and then we can change directly to the eyes. So now I want to work only on the eyes, so I don't want anything else to be bothering in the view, so I'm going to local view. And to enter local view, we are going to press the slash button. So pressing slash button, we enter local view, or we can come here to the view and then local view and toggle local view right here. All right, we see here, if we select everything, that it already has a UV on it, but it's not very good at the moment. So what I am going to do here, and what we are going to do, is we are going to take off this part right here. So I selected the loop, so Alt click, and then you select the loop, and then I'm going to press Q and then mark seams. So this way it's going to create the UV seams around the selected loop. And the way it is at the moment is not very good, because as we can see, it is very distorted. So what is happening here is that we have this part of the mesh, this part of the object, that is like a ring, like this. There is unwrapped, just like a torus, like a donut shape or something like that. And we don't want it to be like this. We want it to be like a straight strip of polygons. And to achieve that, we are going to need to cut this part right here or any other part. But I'm going to cut down here because this is where people are most likely not going to see. And where we have UVs, there are some artifacts that may happen with the object. So we tend to avoid adding UV seams to where people are going to see a lot. So here it's down, so it's below the eye, pretty difficult for people to see. Then I selected it, Q Maxim. Now we have something that's a little bit more, well, a lot more straight. So as we can see right here, and we can see that the squares now they are not distorted, and yeah, they all look to have the same size. All right, now that we have the eyes complete, the eyes UV complete, we are going for the antenna. So clicking here on this little dot right here, and we can change to the antenna. And first, since we are not seeing the antenna here, we need to go back from local view. So I'm pressing the slash key, and then I'm going to press it again. Okay, now that we are in the antenna, we can start getting the UV seams in the right places. So for example, this part right here, I want to cut this part up here. So I press Alt and click, and then I select the entire loop. I'm going to press Q and then mark seams. And then we are going to have a bunch of things that are not going to look correct as of yet, but that doesn't really matter for now because we are still in the beginning of the UV seams. So another part that we are going to cut is the base of the antenna right here. So Alt click or double click, select the loop, and then Q mark seams. All right. Now we need to cut, let's see, behind here. So I'm going back. So I'm in the back view. I'm going to get these two edges here. So we do the same as we did with the eyes. So here, selected, Q, mark seams. Nice. Now let's go up, and then we are going to mark here the sphere of the antenna. And for here, I'm going to open it up in the middle like so. So I selected it and then press Q, mark seams, and that's basically it for that. Now we need to mark the seams of this part right here. So since it is pretty elongated like this, we see that it's doing some weird stuff here in the UV. So we are going to get this guy here only. And to actually do that, we are going to press 3 to go in face select mode, and then L. And you're gonna see that it's not going to select everything that's linked, because now it respects, let me open it here, it respects the seams. So since this part here is cut, it's not going through it. It's only going to get the objects, the meshes, the polygons that belong to a island. So island is this thing right here. So something that's not connected in the UV space. So for example, this is called an island. So the same thing here. When we select this cable haste, I don't know what it's called. It's an island, and so I can select it, and then we can isolate it pressing Shift H. So we hide everything that's not selected. All right. Now what I'm going to do is again go to the back. So back perspective, we can click this guy here as well. So for example, I have here, I'm going to click on this Y, and then I'm going to the back, and then I'm going to open it just like we did with the eye and the base of the antenna. And here, the same thing, I'm going to press Alt and click, and it's going to select all the edges that go along this path. So now that I have it, I'm going to press Q and then mark seams. Nice. So now that I marked it, we can see that it's like this. It's not very interesting yet. And I'm going to press Alt H to return the items that were hidden, and then we are going to keep it like this for now. It's not good yet, but we can keep it like this for now, because later we are actually going to make everything be in the same space. And at the moment we have separated objects, so if we make changes here, we are actually going to make changes after. So these changes, they are going to waste. So I'm not going to make anything here yet. Just going to keep it like this. And we can go to the next item. And for that, slash to go out from local view. And then I'm going now for the arm objects. And for that, I'm going to the arm sockets first. So going to click on it. And then I'm going to press slash again, so we only see it. Like the eyes, we have something similar here, so I'm going to Alt click this ring, Q, mark seams. Since we have these distortion here, we know that we have to cut. So we have to cut it down here, because it's where most likely people are not going to see. Q, mark seams. Alright, it seems like the it seems like the squares are all the same size, so that's good. Slash, and then we can go for the arms now. And so I'm going to click here, and then we changed for the arms. Slash again, and then we enter the local view, but this time for the arms. In this case, we are going to take out this tip. So Q here, then it's going to create this part here. And then we also want to get rid of this one. Actually, not get rid, we want it to be disconnected. So Q, mark seam, and then we have now another cap like this one. And again, we see that it is kind of distorted, and that's because it created something that's not very good in here. And so this is basically because we need to cut it. And again, we are going to the underside of the thing, because it's more complicated for people to see it. And in this case, we are going to select it a different way. So I'm going to click the first edge right here, and then I'm going to the last one right here and press Ctrl and click. So this way we are going to pick the shortest path. And that's basically how we select things in a row like this, and it's pretty useful. We can actually come here, open this guy, and this edge tag, we can change it to be tag seam. So it's automatically going to mark it as seam for us, and so we don't even need to press Q to mark it. Alright, and so this way we already have the arms with the UV seams in place. Then we can press slash again and go for the, let's see, for the fingers. Yeah, but for the fingers we have a problem now, because when we press A here, we select this thing here. So I'm going to press Shift Z just so we can see. That's actually what the finger is at the moment, because the other things that we added to this finger is actually modifiers, and these modifiers, they are dynamic, so we cannot change them in the edit mode like this. And we would need to be able to change it in edit mode, because we need to mark the seams of it. Otherwise, we are not going to be able to mark it, and then we are not going to be able to texture it correctly. So what we are actually going to need to do is to go to object mode. So I'm going to press tab object mode, and then we are going to apply the solidify, because the solidify is the one that's going to turn it in an actual 3D model. So I'm going to come here and apply, or I can simply select the modifier, hover over the modifier that you want to apply and press Ctrl A. And that's it. Now we can go back to edit mode, and we see that's actually now a real 3D model. So let me press Alt A to deselect everything, and we are going to do this here in one by one. So I'm going to select the first upper finger here, so pressing L to select the linked things, and going to press Shift H to isolate the view, and then now we can start separating things out. And so I pressed 3 here, Shift Z, so we can see it in solid view, and also slash, so we see it in local view. So this one, I'm going to separate these parts of the finger here, so this one and this one. So I can select that, Shift select this one, Q, mark seam. Okay, now we see that it's not very good, actually very bad. And we can do the same thing that we did with the arm cylinder before. So we are going to press 2 to go into the edge select mode, select this edge right here, and then Control select the last edge like this. And then since we added this edge tag to tag seam, it automatically created the seam for us. And so we have the finger, the upper finger, UV all set. So we can go to the next one. So I'm going to press Alt H to unhide, and then Alt A to deselect everything. I'm going to press L on this finger right here, so the below finger, the down finger, I don't know. Shift H to isolate it. 3 to go into face select mode. I'm going to select this one and this one. Press Q, mark seams. Again, it's all distorted as we can see here, so not very good. And then I'm going to press 2, select this edge here, and Control select this one here. So again, automatically it added the seams for us. All right, Alt H, and there we go. We already have the UVs for the fingers, so I can press slash to go out from local view. Now, for the hands, I'm actually going to keep the hands like this because it's a sphere and it's already UV'd. We didn't make any change to it, so it's not bad. It's not good. It's okay. This one is usable, so we don't need to do anything to the hand. Just in case, let's save. So Control S to save, and then let's go to the leg objects, and just so we go in order. So oops, let me get here. The first one is going to be the pelvis joints. So I'm going here to the pelvis joints, click on this one, and then slash to isolate the view. All right, so here basically what I'm going to do is to separate some parts, which I'm going to separate it in here actually, and also going to separate this one right here. So Alt and click, and you're going to be able to select the ring. Now Q mark seams. Okay, this one, this part here now looks a lot cleaner, and this part here also looks a lot cleaner, but we still have the distortion in this part here. So I'm going to add the seam on this one on the top because it is inside the body. So I can simply come here. So I'm going to select this edge here and then Control select this edge here. So again, it adds the seams for us automatically. All right, now it looks a lot less distorted. It's still a little bit distorted here, but that's fine. We should be able to survive with that. Okay, so now I'm going to press slash, and then we go back to the no local view. Awesome. Now we are going for the upper leg links. So it's going to be this one. I'm going to click here on this little dot. And then we are going to change the UV of this guy here. We could keep it like this, but as we can see, it's kind of stretched. We have the squares as a rectangle now. So that's not good. So let's make a new one for this. And in this case, I'm going to press slash again, and then we go into local view 3, so I can select the faces, and I'm going to disconnect, or I'm going to mark seams on this entire face and also this one. So Q, mark seams. And then we have something that's quite distorted. So I'm going here on the back, I'm going to press 2 and then select this edge here and pressing Q again and mark seams. Now we have everything as squares, so they are not stretched anymore, like this. So this is pretty good. All right, now slash again to go out from local view. And now we are going to use some tricks to get the UVs around. Because let's go here to object mode first. Because this here, this here, and this here, so all the joints, they are basically the same model. We didn't do anything different on them. We duplicated them and just moved them around. So what we can do is we can copy the UVs that we already have from this one to the other two. And that's exactly what we are going to do. So I'm going to select the boot joint, the knee joint, and last I'm going to select the pelvis joint. And then, since we have all of them selected, I'm going to press Ctrl L, and we are going to have these copy UV maps. So when I click here, we can see that all of them now has the same UV. So pretty neat. And the leg is basically the same thing. So we can do the same thing here again. So I'm selecting here the lower leg link and the upper leg link. I'm going to press Ctrl L, copy UV maps, and there we go. We already have most of the leg UV completed. Now the last one is going to be here in the boots. So now that I have the boot selected, I'm going to press tab, go into edit mode, and then let's press slash. So we isolate the view, so local view. And I'm going to cut some things. And okay, so I'm going to cut this one. It's going to be, so I selected Q, mark seams. And I'm going to cut here as well. So select Q, mark seams. So this way I have the seams marked in all the 4 edges of a face. And then we still have a lot of distortions here. To fix that, what we are going to do is I'm going to press Q to go into Edge Select mode, click here on this edge, and then Control click here on this edge. And I'm going to separate these parts of the boot. So the same thing here, clicking here on this edge, Control click here on this one. Here, Control click here. So we already have something that's pretty interesting here. Now we can do the same in this part here. So select that, Control, select here. And then we have now UVs that they aren't distorted and looking pretty nice actually. Okay, so basically with this we have all the objects UV'd. Oh, actually we have all the objects with seams. So we need now to get them all together to get the same density of pixels, let's say, because let's see, the head here so the head here has a lot less squares, as we can see, than the eyes. It has a lot less squares than the arms. It has a lot less squares than all the rest of the body. And if we take a look at the objects, they are bigger. They will indeed have less squares than the smaller ones. And that shouldn't be the case because everything should have the same density, so the same amount of squares, let's say. And to do that, we are actually going to get all these models together in a single object. All right, so before we do that, we are going to save. So save this one, and then we are going to save again, but this time we are going to save with Control Shift S. So we create a new version of this blend file. Just so if anything wrong happens, we have a backup file. So this one I'm going to call boybot02. So save as, and let's continue from here. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'll be going to object mode, and then I will select everything. And also I want the head to be the main object. And so I shift click on the head until it gets this lighter orange like this. So it means that the head is the active object. All right, now that I have it, I'm going to press Ctrl J. Oops, here we have some problem because we applied everything to the same model. We now lost the modifiers that we had in some objects. So before doing this, let's press Ctrl Z. We need to apply all the modifiers that we had before. So I'm going again to select everyone, and I'm going to press Ctrl A. So Ctrl A is to apply, and we are going to look for visual geometry to mesh. This visual geometry to mesh is going to get all the modifiers, and this is basically going to apply all of them for you. So instead of you going to the modifiers one by one and pressing Ctrl A, for example, it's going to get the geometry that you see here and transform it in an actual geometry that you are able to modify. So I'm going to press this one, Visual Geometry to Mesh, click, and now we can press Ctrl J. Remember to have the head as the active object, and so Ctrl J, and there we go. We have everything here, so nothing is lost, and we're good. Now then, we are going to change this head shape here. It's not just a head shape anymore, so let's change the name of it to Boy Bot. So this one is the Boy Bot, and I'm going to call this mesh, this collection here now, I'm going to call it Mesh because it will contain the Boy Bot Mesh. And I'm going to delete the collections that I don't need anymore. I'm pressing X, just like the other objects. Cool. Now that we have here the boybot all in a single object, I'm going to edit mode, and we can see that this here is a complete mess. Well, what we can do here now is get all of this packed in this space. And to do that, we are going to press A, and then we can press U again, and then unwrap. So this way we are going to unwrap everything again. And as we can see, it is fairly good, I'd say. So not bad at all. And now that we pressed U and unwrapped it here, we can actually make this here be even better by packing it with a different algorithm, because at the moment we see there are a lot of spaces here, for example this one, this one, this one, that is not used. When UVing things, we want to occupy the most of this space as possible, and Blender, as of 3.6 if I'm not mistaken, comes with a pack. So let's see here, pack islands, that uses a different method to pack the objects that is a lot more efficient. So we are going to use it. So pack islands, we are going to use this one, exact shape, concave. We can keep all the things like it is, and then we are just going to press OK and wait for it to calculate. Alright, so now that if it finished calculating, we see that it gets things a lot more compact, so packed together. We don't see that many or that much space that's not used. So it is, we can see that it is a little bit more efficient. So basically, with this, we can say that our model is completely UV'd. So now we are actually able to start texturing it. And this is what we are going to do in the next video. So I will see you there.